Hello guys, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you're going to watch the video from and the time you're going to see this video. I remember my humble self, the Ike Man. If you're coming across my videos for the first time, I would like you to share my videos, like, comment, and follow my page. If you're not following me, remember to send stars to support the updates I'm giving here. This is a breaking news. On an interview where this man attended on Arise TV, Bwala, the spokesperson of Atiku, don't break the remaining table. No matter say wetin him talk na wetin all of us know na. The man talk say Tinubu bought his election results. That's why anything wey him go dey do now, he no go send anybody because he know how him take buy the results. I want you to watch the interview wey this man granted at Arise TV. And one of the things wey this man talk here wey really caught my attention be say, do you know that the ministerial nominee list wey Tinubu submitted to the Senate, this man talk say that Tinubu gave these former governors that made the list, he gave them a quota to appoint somebody. Do you know what these people do? Instead of appointing somebody or nominating somebody from that state, they nominated themselves. This is the reason why we keep telling ourselves that these politicians wey we get, they don't get the interest of the masses at heart. They are just self-centered. You wey don't serve as a governor for 8 years, wetin again are you coming to do in the corridor of power? You wey don't do on top of power before, come they give order. You go fit take order from another person to do something to them for the masses. Haba, what's up now? Just watch this video. And this man said that Wike is not their party member, that Wike is doing youth service. Now this just make me laugh. He said that Wike is doing service in the presidential villa, or he is on his sabbatical leave. Just watch the video. As I watch it, try to share it, like it, comment, and follow my page if you are not following me. We pray that the court will do the needful. B2B is coming. We move.
President Bwala Tinubu has that opportunity. Some of us from the other party believe the reason he could do that is because he bought his election. Do you understand? Nobody can say when he went to Rivers and the former governor of Rivers was trying to subliminally, put a emotional burden or blackmail. He said, I owe you nothing. He knows how he achieved what he achieved. So he has that opportunity to say, and he has done that now in states where we tell you he picked somebody as against the wish of the government. I will want the court to declare a rerun because we believe we won the election. Tells your history. And there are some of the names there that could make you throw up. For example, a person who was a minister, then he became a governor and served for 2 terms, and then going back to ministerial position, just like saying you're repeating a class, to me, is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. It is like saying you were a governor, you were a commissioner, then you became a governor, and after you serve for 2 terms, you want to go back to become a commissioner.
Who exactly are you talking about?
I mean, if you run through any of them, anybody who was a minister before he became a governor and now is nominated as a minister falls within that category. Now, whether the person is competent or not, the question to ask is, wherever he comes from, aren't there people who haven't gotten to this level with equal or even better capacity and record? For example, any governor that finds his way in any ministerial position in any political party, not just because it is the governing party, to me, in the present Nigeria, with the desire for a paradigm shift, will go to show a lack of good judgment on the part of the president. I came from the APC party before I joined PDP. I can tell you there are many competent and compellable people than some of the governors that found their ways there. But that's one. 2, with respect to the appointment, there are some individuals that are new entrants, right? So it will be unfair to critique them at this moment when they have not been exposed to opportunities that you could then say whether they were able to perform or not. And I know that we celebrate the fact that young people found their way, but to me, the true test of leadership is not determined by age. Because it has not happened in this climb, we celebrate when it happens. But we have seen a lot of younger people who were trusted with responsibility that they failed. and we have seen older people that perform. So the yardstick should be competence and performance, even though from this climb, considering the lack of preparation for generational shift, all these people you see gladiators in our polity, in the next 10 years, all of them would have been phased out. Are their generation to take over from them? The answer is in the negative. No preparation at all. And let me say this. Until Showore in Nigeria began this quest and push for the young people to vie for the impossible. There was a time in this country, if you thought of running for even House of Rep, and you are less than 45 or 50, people will look at you as somebody that is unserious. Because in their psychic, in our own psychic, we thought that somebody who will run for an office has to be that old. But Showore came. In the midst of the cacophony, he kept pushing. And not long after that, we had this amendment to the Electoral Act that gave room for younger people, not too young to run. And then we see today, even if you are 17, if you are 18 or 20, you say you want to run for president. Nobody looks at you and thinks you are stupid. So we've come a long way. But the bigger question, Mr. Suleiman, is I am not looking at names and individual character, even though it matters. I'm looking at the manifesto of the party and the magicians that have just been nominated who will bring about the performance of the renewed hope. Because if you look at the present situation that we're in Nigeria, my brother, we are in a terrible situation.
You know, before we get to the manifesto of the party, I'll take you back a little bit, because you raised a very important point, and that has to do with nominations and also a generation of older politicians. Now, for instance, some of the cases you pointed out, we understand that these people who are leaders of their political parties in their states were asked to nominate people from their states. And it turns out that some of them first nominated themselves. So it comes to some of the concerns you have raised. In the case where you have, let's bring a scenario here. Let's paint a picture quickly here before the question drops. For those who are lovers of Tony Aneni, they will tell you that back in the day, Chief Aneni, when he's asked to bring someone, or the President, Bwala Tinubu, never for once nominated themselves. If it's going to be Daniel Bwala, 3 names, they put your name 3 times as Daniel Bwala. But these sets of politicians, especially some former governors, nominated themselves. So if you say 10 years down the line, some of them would have been retired, politically speaking. What do you think can be done quickly here to actually make the country start a new generation or survival for those to take over the mantle of leadership to build the new Nigeria? So because this is very important, because the moment you raised that, and I said, no, we need to back up before we come back to the manifesto of the party. Because
if you look around the world today, even in countries where you have the president as somebody in his 80s, and you look at the structure of government in those countries, you will agree with me that there is already in place people to take over to the next generation. What we have in Nigeria today, first of all, now look at the leaders we had after independence, or the leaders that worked towards independence. They were all in their youth age. And Nigeria did better, did extremely well, for good or bad, in the times when the young people were manning the office than in the times when older people managed their affairs. Some of the people in government today that we call them all started out as young people, but our psychic has been so destroyed. Now, this is where I will hold President Bola Tinubu accountable if he does not seize the opportunity, like the way God presented the opportunity to Buhari in the past, and he was unable to bring about the changes that Nigerians needed. Now, I'll give you a contrast, example, of to suggest to you that Bola Tinubu had every privilege and opportunity to force youth or force women. If you go to a state like Cross River, the governor nominated himself, but he was not taken. And there were 2 ministers taken from the state, which obviously suggests that there may be a minister for that state, a minister representing the zone. So if Bola Tinubu could do that, that means he has the capacity to choose whoever he wants everywhere, that he chose to rely on some people that predictably, very soon he will regret deciding on them. Now look at it. You were a governor for 8 years. You were giving orders. You were not taking orders. You had the unlimited resources of the state. You had control of the state assembly. We all know that state assemblies in Nigeria hardly function. So in other words, you had all the wherewithal to bring about government change. You couldn't do that. Now you're nominated as a minister who will be in a ministry with limited resources. You will have to take order from the king himself, Bwala Tinubu. Do you see that somebody who could not perform when he had the opportunity with the resources, being able to perform now? This is the reason why we made the case that once somebody served as a governor for 2 terms, he should not have any basis to come around ministerial nomination. The nation has to make a conscious effort. There was a time in Nigeria, from governorship, you don't become president.
You know, Dana Bwala, a PDP member you are, but I seem to be excited about your objective, analysis here, because you just spoke about Rivers, Cross River State, where the former governor also nominated himself. The story again is still the same about the leader of the APC in Edo State, who also nominated himself. But at the end of the day, some others were picked.
Yes.
So is this indicative of the new Nigeria you just envisaged earlier on?
Is indicative of the fact that PBAT had now the opportunity to bring about the new Nigeria, right? Most of the young people that you will think, or we thought they were going to find their ways in ministerial position, have been banished to boards and parastatals as members. When you make somebody a member of a board, it's redundancy. Somebody who has energy, has enthusiasm, crazy ideas. Some of them just came back from study. Some of them have piloted your campaign where you see cutting-edge reasoning, whether in media or in anything. Now it is time for them to bring that to fore in national affairs because of what you call the politics of leadership of a state. Now they will name it. And in Nigeria, we know most governors are intimidated by competent people. You rarely find a governor choosing a competent person from his state to represent, because their own psychic and psychology is that if you give that person the opportunity, he will blow. What in common parlance among the young people, they say, he will blow. They prefer yes, sir, and indulgent, people who apply the literal principle of 48 laws of power, where you behave like the king's fool. And so you find them all in government, whether ambassadorial, ministerial, or MDS and parastatals. How can that move? Now, President Bwala Tinubu has that opportunity. Some of us from the other party believe the reason he could do that is because he bought his election. Do you understand? Nobody can say, when he went to Rivers, and the former governor of Rivers was trying to subliminally, put a emotional burden or blackmail. He said, I owe you nothing. He knows how he achieved what he achieved. So he has that opportunity to say, and he has done that now in states where we tell you he picked somebody as against the wish of the government.
Now you're talking about Rivers State, and some would say that the former governor also nominated himself. So were you surprised seeing his name on that list?
Who?
The member of your party, Nyesom Wike.
You see, he's not a member of our party. Let me explain. Either he is doing his youth service in the villa, he is on sabbatical in the villa, or that he has decided to be an instrument of the governing party against our party. Because as soon as it was announced, you see the video everywhere in the plan. In fact, in your program this morning, it was played where he vowed he will never be in APC because APC is synonymous to cancer. And then on another occasion, he said for the minister will go, I'm not interested. But he's not alone. There was a governor who said he was going to school. He was not going to be a minister. And then this morning, interestingly, some of your uncles that were analyzing, they said anybody who is nominated as a minister must have gone to SSS to defend your CV and answer questions. So that means you were conscious. It's not like your name just pop out, who wants to be a millionaire. You work towards it. You lobby it. To me, that is not, if we can pick states, because I have lived long enough in APC for 7-8 years, you can pick a state. I will give you an idea of people who should have been ministers. But they are not made. The good part, and I must praise President Tinubu for that, is, you remember when European Union said this election was rigged? They said it was mad with bad. They said only 31% of the result in IREF was mathematically correct. And they dish out a lot of things of their findings. You remember some people came out from the governing party and criticized them. The reason they did is because in the report of European Union, there were 2 people that European Union classified as merchants of fake news. Now, some people thought Tinubu is not smart. They thought Tinubu also is saying bullshit with the European Union.
No, we don't use the BS.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, I agree.
We'll take that
I
back.
withdraw that. So, but do you know what Tinubu did? He did not appoint these individuals whose name featured in the report as merchant of fake news.
In other words,
I don't read like this.
In other words, the president is listening to some extent.
To be fair to him,
yes.
Since he took office, there are one or two things he has done that suggest he listens. Like, for example, the ill thought and ill timed 8,000 to be given. He saw the outcry of the people he withdraw. Buhari wasn't doing that in his time, because people around him will come and tell you that these are enemies of your government.
So quickly, let's wrap up on this, on the ministerial list. What are those things you would want him to rejig, if there are, in the list?
I will want the court to declare a rerun, because we believe we won the election. And when the court declares a rerun, Atiku Abubakar would definitely emerge as a winner. Then I can come and tell you in detail what Atiku has for Nigeria as a plan. Now, because on all issues that they are implementing, beginning with the private sector-led arrangement, even this removal of subsidy, you know, we define the things to be put in place and how the subsidy is to be removed in phases.
So you think your agenda is stolen?
No, if they have stolen it, it would have been better now. If they have stolen and implemented it, that means there would have been federal government program already reeled out to provide the cushioning effect. So if your choice was to make cars, for example, available to help middle-class workers, then those cars would have been in town. If it is to increase the salary of staff to cover for that transportation or high cost of food.
But your party is in support of the subsidy removal.
Everybody who thinks well for Nigeria will support removal of subsidy, ultimately.
It's a fine place for us to leave it. Bwala, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I do hope